just a minute.
Just water, just something to sip on, the bottle of water, just.
Yeah.
So you have something to sip on, sweetie?
You want some water, though?
I've got that coconut.
Anything else? Told you.
Well, you look what it is.
It is what it is, Pumpkin. She loves those shoes so much, but she hasn't looked at the bottom in a while, and they're broke and flapping, and it's like, honey, I know you love them, but the bottom wore out, baby. You just can't quit wearing them.
Come on. There it is. Good one. Yep. And we are up and running. I'm gonna check this real quick. I just want to make sure we don't sit here and cook. Okay. Bring it on. Set it on 68. That sun coming through that window. It'll let you know exactly how hot it is.
Yep, it will.
It's good to be back this morning, and Brother Allen won't be with us today. He's having his normal flea market and drive-in problems, so it's hard to keep good health. He has a great job as far as being manager of it, but then when you try to manage people, especially when the government's giving you more money for staying home than you get for working, it's kind of hard. And that's what they're doing right now, because they want to be able to get the people to the point that they depend on the government, not on their jobs or anything else. But that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give everybody just a little bit of time to come on here while we're sitting here. I will bring my phone up and get it where I need to get it. Facebook. And we'll go to Mr. Atturi. Okay. I have a Bible here in front of me that, for me, ever since I was a little boy, two things I did was, as much as I could, I read the Bible and William Branham's books, and I still do that. And normally it's around January of each year, when it's cold and nasty out and you can't do a whole lot. I'll grab the Bible and I'll take off through and I'll read the Old Testament. The New Testament I can read in a couple of days' time, but the Old Testament is a little thicker. And so I'll read through the Old Testament and I'm into the New and I'm done. But I picked up this Bible, which I've had it for a couple of years, and it is called The Message, and it's The Message, numbered edition, the Bible in Contemporary Language by Peterson. And this is probably, it's the first time I decided I'm going to read this one. Amazing, just amazing how simple, straightforward. You get into King James, the NIVs, and the Wyclifs, and all these different Bibles, Genevas, and everything else, and you've got to work hard and get a headache at it to read it. But this was so simple and so amazing how simple it's put. And so I just wanted to say, if you're one of those people just like me and you love to read the Bible, but it's cumbersome because of all the proper English and not even really proper English anymore. It's all the King James Version, and everybody works off of the King James Version if it's not a King James Version. Well, this doesn't. This is contemporary language. It's so easy to understand and read. So I'd recommend it. The Message, and by Peterson, and it's contemporary language. Just great reading, enjoyment in reading, and so I wanted to give you that. And if you can find it, you will enjoy it. Unless you're Orthodox or traditional message folk, whatever you want to call it, you might not enjoy it too much. This morning, I wanted to take the time to talk just a little bit on Enjoined in One. And last week we took a line of thought and did for 2 weeks in a row there on natural selection, and then we talked about the observer within, and we looked at a lot of different things about the observer and why we came here and who we are, and how we, just like the Spirit did Jesus Christ, it has done us the same way. We have done ourselves the same way. We poured ourselves into it, and we became body, soul, and spirit. We were always spirit, but we took on a different character and took on a body and made ourselves one with the earth. So my thought, enjoined in one, but what I'm thinking about and what I've been looking at is how life and the earth come together to be one. And looks like I got a congregation on the fence out there too.
Male and female turtle doves.
Yep, very pretty little doves. And I've seen so many different finches. I've seen yellow, I've seen orange, I've seen the blue jays, the just amazing amount of colors. Of course, the beautiful cardinals of red, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about being life and earth, how it comes together to be enjoined as one. And I wrote this down: by means of the Spirit, we all said goodbye to our separate piecemeal lives. We all exploded into female. So we had piecemeal lives, partial things. We had partial outlook on so many things, on our religion, on our politics, on our spirituality, on everything about us. We had a lot of piecemeal. And by the means of one Spirit bringing us through humanity, we've come to a point we all said goodbye to our separate piecemeal lives, and we exploded into a new creation, female. And when this happened to us, it happened to us, all of us. Paul said that in the book of Corinthians, we shall all be changed. And he comes over in Ephesians and he talks about all of us being caught up together. Someone said, well, yeah, but he's just talking about the church, Brother Parnell. Well, go on and believe that if you want. That's left up to you. But I don't believe that. When I read it and when I break it down, which I do a lot of, and I look at what wording goes in there and how it goes back to the original, when he says we shall all be changed, he means all, heaven, earth, and everything in it. And when he says we shall all be caught up together, he's talking about all things. He even goes on in several of his different books that Paul writes, and he talks about all things, that we are all things work together for the good. And he just continually talks about how all things will be changed, will be caught up together. And so some people seem to be extremely worried that the earth and all that dwell therein are not caught up in the glory of the Lord. Well, I beg your pardon. We all got caught up together. That's what Paul said in Ephesians 2. Now, they may not be awakened to that fact yet. They may not understand what you understand, but you need to understand this. Everybody's not going to understand what you do, but they are still revealing a part of the Spirit that wanted to be revealed here. So, by means of one Spirit, we all said goodbye to our separated piecemeal lives. We all exploded into female. Female being, no matter the gender, a person who has come to a wholeness and has enjoined that male-female attribute and brought it back to one where it was in the original. Each of us is given something to do that reveals the Spirit. Each of us, all of us, every person out here is revealing the Spirit in some way or another, even if they are in contrast to what we think are the qualities of the Spirit. They're there in contrast, just like your prophet, William Branham, said. He said, how do you know a good woman? He said, stand a bad woman up next to her. How do you know, and he went on and on and on with all those different things. You take something good and you stand something up bad against it, and there's your contrast. Now, you would never know good. You would never know beautiful. How do you know something that's beautiful? Take something ugly and put it up next to it. How do you know something that is caring? Take something that doesn't care and just get around it for a few minutes and you'll know. So, everything is revealing the Spirit, whether it is in contrast with the original, the Spirit, or whether it's an attribute of negative or positive. All of it, everything is revealing the Spirit. And I wrote these things down. What I want to talk about for a while is the various ways of the Spirit and how the Spirit works in our lives. I talked a few times back about a doer and how that a doer is somebody that's got enough intuition and understanding and can distinguish between what works and what doesn't. That's a doer. Doers do things that don't work. And they have enough discernment and intuition to get out of it and go with what works. That's a doer. And then you get those who are just hearers. They hear it and they run out and they flop their lips about it, but nothing happens. They don't. They're not doers. Things don't happen around them that brings a greater understanding, consciousness, and all those things. So I wanted to talk about the various ways that the Spirit works in our lives. And we know that Paul talked about that in Corinthians very strongly in Corinthians 12, 13, and 14. How the Spirit works in our lives. And it's complex, but simple. Complex meaning there are so many various ways that the Spirit works that you almost catch yourself up into, that's not the Spirit, this is. That's not what the Spirit would do, this is what the Spirit would do. And you catch yourself up in trying to separate and make two spirits because you don't like what this person over here is doing, and this person over here, you like what they're doing, so that's not the Spirit, and this is the Spirit. No, that's your opinion. And that's your view of things with your natural eyes. We need to step on up and get a view from the third eye, or from a clear understanding and enlightenment from the eyes of our understanding. So it's so simple, but it's complex. So simple it gets misunderstood and mistaken. God wouldn't have done that. Boy, I hear that so many times. They're not Christian, or they never would have, and just fill in the blank. You know, there's hundreds of things. They don't believe the message. They if that's God, I don't want it. All kinds of statements we make. And by doing so, you limit understanding the actions, because every single person is revealing a part of the Spirit in this life. Every person. But it gets misunderstood and it gets mistaken. I want us to be informed. I want us to be knowledgeable. Not so we're smarter than somebody else. Not so we get everybody to look up to us like, ooh, that's the guru. That's not what it's about. I want us to be informed, and I want us to be knowledgeable, so we benefit from every encounter. As a personal person in the encounter, if you stay knowledgeable and work from your understanding, you're going to benefit from the encounter, no matter how the encounter looks, no matter how absurd it is, or no matter how exciting it is. By staying knowledgeable meaning paying attention on the inside, recognizing the Spirit of the Lord moving in everything. Job said it was in the tornadoes, the whirlwinds. Job said it was in the hurricanes. He said it was in the monsters of the sea. The Spirit was in the stars of the heavens. Everything contains a revealing of the Spirit. So stay knowledgeable and stay informed so you can benefit from that. And it'll make a better encounter in everything that you're doing. Remember how we were, and I was thinking about this, talking about it some. Remember how we were when we didn't know the Spirit's movements? You remember so many things that we immediately, because we didn't know the Spirit's movement in the earth, we were constantly sitting in the judgment seat. This person's not Christ. This person is Christ. This person loves me. Therefore, they know my doctrine. They know my teachings. They know. They call me pastor. They think I have a great understanding. And we would get all of this on the inside of when we didn't know the move of the Spirit. And of course, anybody that was different than that, we said, that's of the devil. And we didn't know the Spirit's movements. And what that did for us is led us from one phony God to another. Mm-hmm. Just one after another. I love this person. This preacher, this guy, I got to go. I'll travel from here to Johnson City just to hear him. I'll travel from here to Canada. I'll go to Vancouver. I'll go to Lima. I'll do anything I can. I'll go in. I got to just traveling from one phony God to another. That's all it is. And because we don't know the movement of the Spirit, we don't pay attention and become knowledgeable and informed to get an encounter of the move of the Spirit every day in everything that you're doing in your life. And I don't have to chase after a man to feel the Spirit. I don't have to chase after a preacher or a pastor or an evangelist or a human resource manager or whatever there is out here that you got your eye on. You don't have to chase after them to be knowledgeable and understanding in the Spirit and get the best encounter for you in your life in the things that you're doing. So you remember when we were that way, and we went from one phony God to another and to another. We went from, for me, I look back at it, and it's been a real traveling experience. And I was talking to Patty about it last night, and I was going through all the career moves that I made. And I was going through all of the message moves that I made, and I was going through everything, and I was kind of laughing about it, and I said, all of it was the movement of the Spirit, but I just didn't know it. Every person I ran into, every person I talked to, everything that I did, every place that I went, it was movement of the Spirit, but in the middle of all of it, I was setting up my phony gods all the time, these false gods. And so, never knowing what we were really doing, I look back across all that, and now I see a platform that took place. I see a move of the Spirit that came through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people and come to a real knowledgeable understanding of the Spirit, of the presence in the present moment, of the today, and we have shed everything else, and we're living in today constantly. We were never knowing what we were doing, just doing it. You know what I'm going to say. Just doing it because everybody else was doing it. Preaching Trinitarian doctrine when I was in the Pentecostal church because everybody else was doing it. Preaching Trinity when I moved over into a group of the Message folks because everybody else was preaching Trinity. And then preaching William Branham because everybody else was. Just doing it because everybody else was. Putting all those fancy clothes on and never stepping outside and letting anybody see your armpit or anything else. Oh my God, it's so filthy. Just, if that dress got above the knee, geez, you need to be rebaptized. Everything, And we had all of that going on, and we were doing it and saying it because everybody else was. We believe in William Branham. We believe in the Bible. The Bible is our absolute. And we just kept using all these words and saying all these things. It's like, they kind of say it's like cliche. You use a certain speech or a certain phrase because it's the cliche. It's the thing to do. It's, it's all those things. We were there, but it's different now in this new life. I don't care. I do not care what anybody says about my understanding. It does not faze me. I'm not worried about the doctrines, the hundreds of doctrines and hundreds of quotes that get sent to me on a weekly basis where I am supposed to be contradicting the religion of the day, the message, the preachers, the churches. One person said, you couldn't get into a message church if you paid them to let you in. I said, I know that. I wrote it back and said, I know every bit of that. And if you're writing me thinking that you're hurting me, then you're not as smart as maybe I thought you were, because you're not hurting me. I'm outside of those things because I came to an understanding that this life is different, and I'm not putting on another phony God, and I'm not putting on another falsehood, and I'm speaking straight from my heart in everything I speak, and I'm bringing it from the Spirit that's moving in me, and I'm watching the move of the Spirit through the earth, through politics, through spirituality, through religion, through all of it, I'm watching the movement of the Spirit, and I'm staying very informed and knowledgeable, and I'm benefiting from every encounter that I go through. When we do that, Paul is talking, and he says, all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord Jesus. It's different in this new life. The various characters of the Spirit are handed out everywhere. The person that you dislike so much, his character's from the Spirit, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. I've told the story many times. There was a guy that probably the only person in all of my times of business, and he was my supervisor. He was a mill manager, and I'm just going to be honest with you, I hated him. And the reason I hated him is because he did so many people wrong. He was the kind of person, he would get his eye on somebody, and he would manage by mistake. When you made a mistake, he would exploit it, and he would manage that way and scare everybody else into never making that mistake. And he would fire people by that and everything else. And I thought it was so cruel. And I started praying that the Lord would move him. I prayed that the Lord, and I thought I was in the movement of the Spirit. I prayed for the Lord to kill him. I prayed for the Lord to move him. I prayed for so many things to happen to him. And one day when I sat down and I was praying, the Spirit said to me, I was praying and I said, do something. Change him. Somehow change him. I can't take him anymore, and I see him hurting too many people. And the Spirit kind of said, well, why don't you make a change yourself? Why don't you love him? Why don't you make a change and change your attitude and change your spirit and change your character and change your nature? And then every day I prayed, and I prayed that my heart would stop hating him. I prayed that I would forgive him. I prayed in such a way that I got to where I knew what he was doing, and I knew it wasn't good, but I personally wanted this man to be blessed in life. I had come to that point. And you know what happened? Within a couple of months, the Spirit moved him out. But it wasn't him that needed to be changed. It was me. And when you get those things in order, then the Spirit will work in whatever way it needs to where you're the benefactor in what's going on. So we see this in this life, this new world we're in. The various characters of the Spirit are handed out everywhere. Every person is revealing a part of the Spirit. Every dog, every cat, every bird, every horse, every tree, everything is manifesting or revealing a part of the Spirit. And the sooner that you knowledgeably and informatively connect yourself and join yourself in one with this journey, the greater it's going to be for you, the more benefactor you will be. It's different in this new life. The various characters of the Spirit are handed out everywhere, but all originates from the Spirit. You say, well, I haven't ever thought of it like this way before. Well, Paul wrote about it 2,000 years ago. And it got handed down through time in a whole bunch of different languages, and most of it got so far out of whack that you don't even really know what Paul taught. But we are at a point now to where we can find it within us, and we don't have to go somewhere to try to be taught. You go somewhere to become more knowledgeable. You read things to become more informed. you're not trying to be taught. Paul said there'll be a time when you don't need a teacher. You've got it within yourself. And we as a group of people, I can say, don't need to be taught. We've got it within us. We need to understand how to bring it out. And when you're reading, or when you're looking at things, or when you're, whatever you're doing it for information and knowledge, because our teacher is inside us. There is power in each one of us. And each one of us are in action everywhere. And it's the action of the Spirit. There's not two spirits going on. Wherever you are, whoever you are in the world, from the janitor to the CEO, from the president to the judge in a local office somewhere, from the highest order to the lowest order, whatever you want to call it, everywhere, all of it is the Spirit of the Lord moving in the earth to reveal Himself. It's everywhere. All the actions of the Spirit are in humanity. Everyone gets in on it. And everyone benefits. The variety is wonderful. This is what it's all about. Paul talked about 9 spiritual gifts. And you know what they were if you go through them all. There was prophecy, and there's tongues, and there's interpretation of tongues, and there's on and on and on, miracles, and all these different things, healing the sick, and discernment of the Spirit. There's 9 of them that Paul lists out. But I want you to understand this. Just because Paul listed those 9 things out, don't mean that's the only 9 things that the Spirit will operate in. He just listed some out for the Corinthian church, so they could kind of pull up in their knowledge and information and become a greater people and benefit from the encounters that they were having with Him and in life. So he rattles off 9 things. And everybody said, oh, that's it. You got to have this one. So-and-so's got this one. This sister over here's got that one. This brother over here, oh, he's the only one. He's the only one that has that gift. Nobody else has. And we get so silly with it. Mm-hmm. We start setting up our phony gods and everything else. And all Paul was doing was trying to give us an understanding that there are a diverse, different ways that the Spirit moves in life. Look at it this way. 9 spiritual gifts. Wise counsel, clear understanding, simple trust, healing the sick, miraculous acts, proclamations, prophecy. Proclamations, and they will fail. Mm-hmm. You can make a proclamation, what you think's going to happen, and sometimes it won't happen because the Spirit moves a different way, or something changes. Just like Brother Branham, he went up into Canada. He said, "Thus saith the Lord," he was going to kill a certain bear, a certain type, and I can't remember all of it, but he went up there, and they were finished with the hunt, and he didn't kill it. And the brothers asked him, said, "But Brother Branham, what about your bear? How can we leave?" And Brother Branham told him, "I missed my opportunity." Yes, I was standing in one place. The Holy Spirit told me to go to a certain place, and I went over here, and I looked, and I saw the bear all the way across the ridges, the one that was mine, but I missed the opportunity because I didn't move in the manner that my spirit was telling me to go. Mm-hmm. That's okay. If you make a proclamation and it changes, that's fine. You know, it's not like, oh my God, they're going to hell now. Mm-hmm. False prophets and liars. Mm-hmm. So we see this. Wise counsel, clear understanding, simple trust, healing the sick, miraculous acts, proclamations, distinguishing of motives, discernment of spirit, distinguishing of motives, various tongues, and interpretations. All these have a common origin in us and are dispensed within the body to properly function. It's not about Daniel becomes very spiritual because he has 3 of those things. And so-and-so's not so spiritual because they have none of those things. That's not what it's about. Are we one? Are we one body? And wherever these things are manifesting, locally, internationally, it's all for the Spirit, and it's in the body to make the Spirit and the body of the Lord properly function in life. That's what it's about. But what we do is we start setting up and saying we need to desire this, and we need to do this, and we need to have these gifts in the church. Every church has 5 true identifications of the Lord. Church? It's been 60 years since there's been a real church, because the church ages were raptured and they're gone. And we're beyond the church ages now. Someone said, oh, the woman can't have any of those gifts. She has to stay silent in the church. I've never read that anywhere, that a woman can't have any of those gifts because she has to stay silent in the church. I never read it anywhere. I read where Paul said a woman should remain silent in the church, but he didn't say she couldn't have those gifts, that she could use them with her children, in her career, with the people outside, with the things she does in everyday life. But inside the old church system, she had to be quiet. Someone said, oh, Brother Parnell, but there's 5 offices. There's apostles, prophets, evangelists, teachers, and pastors. And a woman can't have those gifts in her life. Are you that foolish? Those gifts are gifts to the body, to move in the body. I didn't read where men was the only ones could have it. I've never read that anywhere. But what we do is we take all those old church systems and we try to apply them to today. So we got these 9 things that we see that move within the body, and there's many more. We come together as one, enjoined in order to function. We're enjoined. Discernment can't live out there all by itself. It's like the human body. If you have the spiritual body of the Lord is like the human body. Now, the human body, I could name off 50 or 60 different things about what the body is. The livers, the stomach, the lungs, the respiratory system, the circulatory system, and you could just go on and on and on with what is inside the body, the red cells, the white cells, and all of the hundreds of thousands and billions of cells of the human body. But it's just one body. Right here it says there's white blood cells, there's red blood cells, there's lungs, there's a respiratory system moving there, there's a digestive system moving there, there's all of these things that you don't see with your natural eyes, so they ain't near as important because you don't see those red blood cells. You don't see that liver, and you don't see that stomach. So they're just not as important. They're the lesser, lower things of the body. But the important things are, the hands and the feet and the eyes and the ears and well, let me ask you this. Could you lose both eyes and still live? Mm-hmm. Could you lose your liver and still live? No. You can't see it, but it's a part of you that is more about functioning than the eyes ever thought to be. Could you lose your hearing and still live? Yeah. Could you lose your pancreas and still live? Can't do it. Those things that are, Paul called them uncomely parts that we don't see every day and think about. I'd much rather lose my hair as to lose my digestive system. Mm-hmm. I couldn't live if I lost my digestive system, but I can run around bald. Mm-hmm. All these outside things that we look at and we make them the important things, when a body, it's so obvious that a functioning body is concerned with all of its parts. A real functioning body. You're going to take vitamins. You're going to use minerals. You're going to eat certain foods. You're going to exercise. You're going to stretch. You're going to do all these things because a real functioning body, a mind that cares and loves themselves, they are concerned with all of their body parts. And when something isn't functioning, you know it. You can feel it. And you begin to move towards healing that part that is not functioning. But what I catch us doing many times is we're paying more attention to the outer. In a human body, we're paying more attention to, we make sure those nails are painted a certain color for the day so they match the shoes we're wearing. And those nails got to be just right. And those eyebrows, they got to be plucked just right because, oh my, you wouldn't want somebody to see one hair too long or a little too bushy eyebrow. And we just spend hours, and we'll brush those teeth till they're just clean, sparkling white. And, we'll take a little lipstick or balm or whatever you call it and put it on, and we'll do everything we can to the outer, comb that hair back, stand there for an hour and figure out which way it ought to go, and everything else for hours, and we still have competition going on. That's all it's about, is competition, being prettier than, being more presentable than, just fill in the blank, being more presentable than someone else for a job, for a career, for your whatever it's for. You're more concerned with that outer appearance. And I find that in the body of the Lord, we need to move into something. We still have that competition of the outer look. Oh, he's sitting on the back porch in a sunroom talking to people. He used to have a congregation of 150 down at the church. Look at what he's done to himself. Competition goes. All of a sudden, I've got this church. I've got 300 people in it, or I've got 1,000 people, or I've got people all over the world that pay attention to me. And competition starts rolling around with all the outer appearance. And when we do that, still in our competition and comparisons, we seek what we think are important parts of the body, and we all want to be that. I'm talking spiritually now. We seek important parts of the body, and we all want to be that. We all want to manicure that. We all want to have discernment of the Spirit. We all want to have healing the sick. We all want to have, you could just go on and on and on with all the, we look around and we say, ooh, this guy, look at what he did. He stood there. He brought that man's address out. He told him where he lived. He told him how many children he had. He told him his name. He told him that he had this and this and this. Man, you talk about a spiritual man. Well, we don't need anybody today to tell me where I live. I know where I live. I don't need anybody today to talk to me about things that I have. I have a teacher on the inside that's working with me, and I heal the sick, and I raise the dead, and I do all of these things. It's a blessing in my life, and I work continually at it. And the competition of trying to compare myself to another ministry or another outside source somewhere, that still kind of rumbles around in people. Mm-hmm. And so we need to come to a point. Don't you know that the body can live without eyes, can live without ears, it can live without hearing, but it cannot live without a liver or a stomach or a pancreas. It can't do it. So it's the uncomely, unseen things that are actually making the outer body function. The cells are what's putting together the skin. The dead cells are what's making your fingernails and your toenails and your hair. That's all dead cells. Dead cells don't just go away. They continue to do a work. And there's a lot of things out here that we look at and we say are dead. That's okay. That's our hair. That's our fingernails. That's our digestive system. That's those bad bacteria that your body needs so much of. It's okay. Stop worrying about them. Stop comparing yourself to them. And just know that without them, things would be a whole lot worse. And look at it in a different manner. Don't you know that the body can't live without these uncomely things? Stop glorifying what you can see with the natural eye and realize that all parts are important. And when you do that, that brings you to a level playing field. We talked about that last year quite a bit. A level playing field. When you come to a point that you know that every single little cell of your body, every hair Jesus talked about, everything is numbered. It's yours. It's needed. It's all important. When you come to that point that you realize that all things are important, and I don't need to glorify what I see on the outside. I need to bring to a level playing field the importance of all things, all people, all connections, and enjoying myself as one. There's a more excellent way when you do that. It's a more excellent way. It's beyond competition. It's beyond jealousy. It's beyond comparison. It's beyond all of those things. There's a more excellent way. And there's a simple word to explain the more excellent way. Love. It's a fairly simple word. Very complex. Very simple. Very misunderstood. And a lot of times totally mistaken. But love is a more excellent way than all of that competition, comparison, and everything else that you got going on in your life, trying to make sure that everything outside looks so pretty. You know, you put that rouge on and you put everything on and you just get yourself looking real good. and the inside, you know, you sit down, you eat all that junk food and bread and pizzas and candy and everything else, and you're killing your inside all the time. You're not putting back in the minerals and the vitamins and the things that your body needs. And while all of this is looking so good, you're dying inside. And that's what we don't want to do. Let's move to a level playing field. And when we move to a level playing field, everything is normal. Everything is important. Everything is extraordinary, and everything is ordinary. Nothing is above the other. It's all the same, and it's meant to be the same. And a functioning body will take care of itself in such a manner. But we get those attachments. That's not water. I know. I'm sure somebody will write me and say, Brother Parnell, that water looked nasty that you were drinking. It's coconut juice. Or coconut water. If you still have attachments to your belief system, all the things I just talked about, if you still have attachments to your belief system, religion, ethnicity, I'm black and we've been done wrong. I'm white and I need to be less white. If you're still attached to all of that ethnicity, to all of that religion, and if you're still attached to your geographical area of birth, that's the American flag, and America is the greatest nation on earth. And someone in the Philippines say the same thing about their nation, and someone in Spain about theirs, and someone in France about theirs, someone in Poland about theirs, and on and on and on. Everybody got the greatest geographical nation on earth. The greatest people, the most loving people, the most this and that. We're not communists. We're not capitalists. We're on and on and on. If you're still attached, we got the biggest message church. We got a teacher in our church that's more spiritual than any other teacher in the world. We got blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is. If you're still attached to all of those things, if you got to have a teacher outside you, if you got to have, now there's nothing wrong with enjoying and having informative conversations and gaining knowledge and understanding from teachers, from men who are pastors out there. Pastor just meaning taking care of a group of people in a local area. If you're doing that because you want the knowledge, you want the understanding, you want to be well informed with what's going on around the earth in the spiritual world, more power to you. That's what I try to do. I try to stay in contact and talk with those people. But if you're doing it because you're trying to set up a phony God in your system, you're just going to get angry with that man sooner or later, because he's not going to do what you wanted your God to do, and you're going to leave him. He's going to be another false God in your mind. Maybe not in his own personal life, but in your mind, there goes another false God. If you're doing it for all those reasons, you're going to lose. You're going to lose a lot of things in life. If we still have attachments to your belief system, religion, ethnicity, geographical nation, you are going to feel real loss as you continue to walk with the movement of the Spirit, because the Spirit is going to detach you from those things. Your spirit is going to detach you, and detaching you in a rebellious mode is so much harder than detaching yourself, so that you can have a level playing field and stop. Just like you look at your personal body and take care of it, you look at the personal body of the Lord in a much massive scale, and you're concerned of it in the same way, and everything is important to you when you look at it in that manner. Unshackling yourself from these things, belief systems, religions, ethnicity, geographical nations, on and on and on. Unshackling yourself from these things is a release from the prison that you've been trusting in. And it was a prison that you trusted in. And it's a release from the things that you were trying to protect. You know, protect your church above all costs. Protect. Oh, we gotta stand up for this. Protect it. It's our absolute. Detach yourself from all of those things so that you can look at everything on a level playing field and not get so emotional and torn up and thrown about and tossed about by every wind of doctrine that comes along. Detach yourself, unshackle yourself from these things. Walking with nature's force. Nature meaning the earth and the Spirit. The Spirit has a nature. And the nature of the Spirit is the earth right now. So what you need to do is connect yourself up with nature's force. And whatever's flowing in nature, whatever is moving in the soul of the Spirit, move with that. And attach yourself to, not even attach yourself, but just observe and become knowledgeable and informative and be a part of that movement and that Spirit. Being the Spirit in the earth, walking in nature's force, is being the Spirit in the earth. It's a release for your spirit, your soul, and your body. William Branham said for 2,000 years, The Spirit was bound by denominational systems, belief systems, ethnicities, geographical nations, religion, politics. For 2,000 years, the Spirit was bound by these systems. But then there was to come a prophet in the end of the church ages, and he was to release the Spirit, open the seals, and move us into a new day. And it would move us into nature's force. It would move us into being the Spirit in the earth. And it's a release for the Spirit and the very nature of the Spirit. You had a nature that tried your best to put cosmetics on the outer appearance, while the inner appearance was, or the inner things were dying left and right. But we've come out of that now. We've gotten away from the cosmetics. We've gotten away from looking at outside appearances. We've gotten away from who's wearing what and who looks like what and who's dyed their hair and who's cut it and who's not, and wearing too high a shoe and on and on and on and on and on. And we've gotten away from all of those things so that we can have a release of the soul. The Spirit is one thing. The soul is a nature of that Spirit. So the Spirit, we released ourselves from those church age things so that the Spirit could take on a different character or a new soul. And when it takes on a new soul, the body, the earth, the life and the earth enjoined together as one. Enjoined in one. That's what we're talking about. Nature destroys, changes things, and it does so continually without our thought. I had no thought about the leaves coming on that maple tree this year. I will have no thought about those leaves dropping off in October and November. I had no thought about that bird that just flew across a minute ago. I never had a thought and told him, fly across Don Parnell's backyard so he can see you and he can talk about it. There's no thought about it. Nature just moves. And as nature moves and changes, it does so continually without thought. The wind blowing the leaves and everything going on, the man mowing the yard, the birds eating, on and on and on. It all happens all around us. And so we see this happening. It does so without thought. When you are using thought, listen to me real close. When you are using thought and belief and trying to change, destroy, or make things in your life better, you're in an illusion. That's all there is to it. Jesus said by taking thought. Just go read your master, if you want to call it. Just go read what he said. Can any one of you change your stature even 1 cubit by taking thought? Can any one of you change, your hair, your this, your that, by taking thought? It's just going to do what it's going to do because nature doesn't move by thought. Oh, Brother Parnell, we've been taught it does. I don't care what you've been taught. I've come to something totally different. Like I said, I ain't chasing every traditional thing that's been taught anymore. It moves without thought. When you're using thought and belief, trying to change, destroy, or make things in a life better, you're in an illusion. It just doesn't happen. If I sat down in a pool of blood and garbage and sat there and just start taking thought and saying, okay, I need to be out of this pool of blood. And take thought and say, okay, come on, I need to move. I need to be out of this pool. I need to be... You can sit there and think about it for the next 10 years and you're still going to be sitting in that nasty pool unless you get your butt up and pull your bootstraps up and walk out of it. That's what this is all about. We are doers now. And we're not running around taking thought and trying to move through the next 2,000 years by thought. We're moving now. We are doers. We are not separated. The earth and the soul and the spirit are enjoined as one, and every move that you make is the move of the Lord without thought. Jesus said, whenever they call you up and they bring you before the council, stand there and think about what you're going to say now. You better be careful, because if you say the wrong thing, you're going to make everything, you're going to change everything, because your thought changes things. Foolishness. Jesus said, take no thought as to what you will say. The Spirit in you is going to move without thought and do what it needs to do and say what it needs to say. We need to come to this understanding and realize we have moved beyond thought. We're faster than thought. We're more motivated than thought. We have an objective beyond thought now. We've moved into the doer field. We've moved into the level playing field. Be a doer. Don't just think about it. Be a doer by accepting nature's power. Don Parnell has nature's power, and it is hands, it is feet, it is movement, it's the mind, it's everything about me and everyone that I've influenced and everything that I can do. This is my power. Move in whatever way you can. This is my power, my voice speaking to you this morning, talking to you. It has power in it. This is the power, the nature. I'm doing something with what I understand and hopefully helping others to step into the same open door where you can do the same thing for everybody else. People that I will never meet and never know. And you can help them. Be a doer by accepting nature's power. Let go so your spirit can enjoin itself with earth. Let go of what? What do you let go of, Brother Parnell? Thought. Let go of it. Stop thinking about what you might need to do. Stop thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow. Stop thinking about how you're going to talk to these people and say this and say that. Stop thinking about it and just move in movement. Do the things that you need to do. Let go of thought. And in whatever situation you're in, just know my Spirit is the Holy Spirit. And at the appointed time, it will speak the things that need to be spoke. It will do the things that need to be done. And I can do it without thought. We are faster than thought. There's a little joke. I'm not going to tell it, but because it's not the greatest. But boy, it really does explain how... You know what I'm talking about. It really does explain. I think maybe I'll tell it.
Just tell it.
Yeah.
Tell it.
There was these people, they wanted a business, and they were going to interview some people, and they brought in 3 people. And the last question that they asked the 3, they said, I want to ask you, what do you think is the fastest thing in the universe? We want an answer. And the first guy, he said, well, I think the fastest thing in the universe is light. And so he tells these reasons why. And they said, okay, that's some good thinking. Move to the next guy, and they said, what do you think is the fastest thing in the universe? He said, well, I think the fastest thing in the universe is thought. And he gives these reasons why, and they said, okay, so you think it's light and you think it's thought, and they come to this old guy, this old brar or hillbilly or whatever you want to call him. They said, what do you think is the fastest thing in the universe? And they said, he looked at him, he said, well, I think it's diarrhea. And they looked at him and said, diarrhea? I said, why would you say that? And he said, before you can flip the light on or think about it, you done went in your pants. So That's just the way it is. Light and thought and then movement is the greatest thing of all.
Yep.
Make a move.
Yep.
Do something. Move in life. And so when I thought about it, I thought, boy, isn't that the truth? You know, it's faster than light or thought. Before you know it, you done messed all over yourself. Before you can think to turn a light on. Nature. Be a doer. Accept in nature's power. Let go. So your spirit can enjoin itself with the earth and give you the result of union. It gives you the result of union. It gives you the result of communion. Communing with things. It gives you the result of transformation. If there are things that you need to move on into, then transformation happens. Communion happens to give you an understanding of how, and union happens so that you get the people that you love helping you in unity to keep moving on. And so we see this. Stop swimming against nature's current and become a part of nature's movement. You are soul, your nature, a being that is to unite and commune, being enjoined with life and earth. Light, thought, you can talk about it all day long. But you need movement. You need movement in your life. And when you do that, it's faster than anything, and it does more than anything. Healing the sick, raising the dead, casting out devils, casting out doctrines, casting out message fallacies, casting out church systems, casting out belief systems. There's a lot of devils we had to cast out. And those devils were just processes in our mind. So movement is the greatest thing. I put this, I don't know who wrote this, but I found it and I really loved it. Talking about movement. Barely the day started and it's already 6 in the evening. Barely arrived on Monday and it's already Friday. And the month is already over and the year is almost over now. And already 40, 50, or 60 years of our lives have passed. I can relate to that, looking back. And we realize that we lost our parents, our friends, and we realize it's too late to go back and do anything about what we did with them. It's too late. So let's try, despite of everything, to enjoy the remaining time. Okay? A lot of feelings and regrets and all kinds of things lay back there through the past. And it's been 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 40, whatever you are. But from this day forward, you can do something different. Begin to do something about it. We realize that. So let's try, despite of everything, to enjoy the remaining time. Let's keep looking for activities that we like. Let's put some color in our gray. Let's smile at the little things in life that put balm in our hearts. And despite everything, we must continue to enjoy with serenity this time we have left. Let's try to eliminate the afters. And this is what's meant by eliminating the afters. I'm doing that after this. I'll say this after. I'll think about it after. After this, after this, after this. I'll do it after this. I'll do it after this happens, after that. Just stop it. And begin to move. Move forward and do things. We leave everything for later. For after. And it's all ours to do if we would just move and do it. Because what we don't understand is that afterwards, we keep talking about after I get my education, after I graduate from school, after I get a car, after after I get a job, after I, all the time. Because what we don't understand is afterwards the coffee gets cold. Afterwards priorities change. Afterwards the charm is gone. Afterwards the health you had to do things passes. Afterwards the kids grow up. They're gone. Afterwards parents get old and die. Afterwards promises are forgotten. Afterwards the day becomes the night. Afterwards life ends. And then it's often too late. So let's leave nothing for later. It's what I'm enjoined into one. And move. Stop thinking about the light. Stop thinking about what needs to happen and philosophizing, whatever you call it, on how it has to happen and go years without it happening. Just stop those things. Enjoy yourself. Because by still waiting or see you later, we can lose the best moments of our life with our children, with our family, with our friends, with our own self. You could be so much more informed, so much more knowledgeable. We lose the best moments, the best experiences, the best friends, the best family. The day is today. The moment is now. We can't afford to postpone what needs to be done. I don't know who wrote that, but it's just perfect. Get beyond your thoughts. Get beyond the glorious spiritual light that we all have and do something. Do something, help people, make a move, enjoy your life, do your cookout. We'll do that after the rain stops. We'll do enjoy yourself. I'm going to go walk when the weather's better. Meanwhile, the belly's growing and the muscles are dying out and everything else, and the weather never did get perfectly right to walk a mile. We always do it. We can't afford to postpone and say, I'll do it after, or I'll leave that till later. The Spirit is a neutral life. You can take it up, or you can leave it lay. The Spirit is a totally neutral life. The life, its life, is all things. We all develop our character by desire, and it feeds our development by what we do. The body without the Spirit is dead. And the Spirit without the body can do nothing. We need to recognize the Spirit's not going to muster you up. Hey, get up. The Spirit's not going to do it. It's neutral. It's going to feed you your desire. That's what it's going to do. It's going to let you live off of it in your desire. So if your desire is to do little, you're going to do little. If your desire is to think little, you're going to be little. If your desire is to do nothing, you're going to be nothing. It's not going to push you into anything. The Spirit is neutral. But if you decide, and your desire is to get up, you know the old saying, a body that's in motion tends to stay in motion. If your desire is to get up, to move, to do things, to look at the knowledgeable things, to read, to understand, to have conversations, to help people, to do whatever I can do in any way that I can. If your desire is to do that, then you are going to be a something, not a nothing. You're going to be somebody that is looked at and recognized in many ways. A lot of people say, I'll say one thing for Don Parnell, his persistence, his body, the way he forces himself to keep going in the middle of all of that turmoil, said, we never seen anything like it. We might not agree with his thoughts and with the things that he teaches, but man, he sure keeps going. Well, I know the minute I lay down, I know the minute that I say, Mr. Spirit, I'm just going to be neutral and do nothing. Then you know what the Spirit's going to do? Is going to find somebody else that'll do it. I wanted to write some thoughts, and I won't get into these today. But I just want to say there's many things that we assume about our past civilization, whether it's in the earth or the theophany. We assume a lot of things about our past walk before entering our union with Mother Earth and the Spirit. Before we came here, we thought a lot about and assumed a lot about what the theophany was and what the theophany is. There are many things that we assume about our next civilization. You know all the assumptions. You know, utopia, living in an earth where nothing dies, living in a place where nobody grows old, living in all those things. You know all the assumptions. But when we step through the current veils, it's going to be so much different. You know William Branham's, you know where he stepped in 1960 when he went across the curtain of time? That's May of 1960. And he went across the curtain of time. You know where he stepped to? Right here. Right here. A people who could recognize and stop thinking about outer appearances, and he could see them as beautiful and in a world of perfection. He could see them in such a manner that they understood who they are. He came over into the future. We shouldn't toss out anything. Oh, when we get over there, this is not going to be there. Over where? What's not going to be there? The earth's eternal, whether you know it or not. It's an eternal attribute, and it's always going to be. There, here, everywhere. It's going to be. We shouldn't toss out anything and say that it ends. Oh, that man, he murdered 6 million Jews, or that man, he conquered the whole world, and that man over there, he's this and and we think about all these different men and groups and nations and ethnicities and everything else. They'll never be there. Well, you might get the shock of your life. We shouldn't toss out anything and say that it ends here in this life. We are eternal. Always give one another the highest respect and esteem others rather than yourself. You will be a blessing and you'll receive blessings. That's not living in the past. That's just being humble with your understanding. Be humble with the knowledge, information that you have, and move in the Spirit of the Lord. Move in your spirit and be a part of the Spirit in the earth. Some will say, we'll never grow old in eternity. Where are you at, Daniel?
In eternity, old.
We'll never grow old, never grow old, never grow old, in a land where we'll never grow old. My fingers feel it, my hands feel it, my head feels it, my body feels it. You know, we're growing, and part of growing is getting older. But we're going to go somewhere where we won't grow old. In eternity, I'd say to you, we are in eternity now. We're in eternity right now, and we are growing old as each day passes by. We created measurement for understanding, and measurement of years. We created all that so we can understand growing old. Growing older doesn't mean getting feeble. Now, if you start singing about a place or a time in me, Don Parnell, as an eternal person, there will be a time when I'm no more going to get feeble. Mm-hmm. But I'll continue to grow because we got measurement. Mm-hmm. But I won't get feeble. I won't break down. Right. But I'll get older and older and older. Because we created measurement, and we ain't leaving measurement. Mm-hmm. We'll have it from now on. Growing older doesn't mean growing feeble. Moses was 120 years old, and his eyes were not dim, nor his natural strength abated. Methuselah, 969 years old. Adam, 962 years old. You could go on and on and on. Growing old doesn't mean getting feeble and those kinds of things. But in eternity, we are growing older and older and older. But we will break a veil where we won't get feeble anymore. We will break that veil. Some say there will be no sex glands. I'll let that sink in a second. Some say there will be no sex glands over there in eternity. Well, there might not have been no sex glands in the sixth dimension, because that's not their priority there. Mm-hmm. But in eternity, the sixth dimension is just a little speck of eternity, people. Mm-hmm. But in eternity, there'll be no sex glands. I don't know about that. Mm-hmm. Some say there'll be no sex glands and no sexual relations. I say to you, when Abraham and Sarah had a body change, it was all about renewing the sexual relations between one another. Yep. To bring forth the promise for their day, they had to have sex and a sexual relations. Why would the Spirit do away with an enjoyment that gives us some of the most intimate parts of our eternal life with our partner? Recasting the purpose of an intimate relations is more sensible. Okay, when you move into the sixth dimension, the priority there is not to have or to do those kinds of things. So there's no sex glands. But when you move back into the earth, into the first, second, and third dimensions, it's here. That's all there is to it. And this is where we're going to live. And why would we disparage and take away something from one another as a partner that's so enjoyable? Maybe it will just be that the lust will be removed to have everybody else's wife. Maybe it will be that the lust will be removed to have fornication. Maybe it will just be those things, but we will move on with sexual relations and enjoyment and continue to bring forth children of the Lord into the earth through the tree of knowledge, which ain't going away. It's just changing. Mm-hmm. It's still an attribute. Abraham and Sarah, why would the Spirit do away with an enjoyment that gives us some of the most intimate parts of our eternal life? Recast your thoughts. William Branham went to the sixth dimension and there was no sex glands. Amen. So in the sixth dimension, there's no sex glands. Right. Wahoo! But in the other dimensions, there still is, and there still will be, and there will always be. Yep. Brother Parnell, you're going against so many things. I'm just being sensible. I'm just recasting all the silly things that we convinced ourselves of. William Branham did not tell us we won't have sex glands. He said in the sixth dimension they don't have them. And they're only there preparing or waiting for the time to come back into these dimensions. I'm sure I'll hear about that. I don't know if I'd want to live somewhere
Spend
like
a lot of
that.
time in the sixth dimension.
I want intimate relations. I want to have personal, loving, touching, holding one another, sleeping together, enjoying life. That ain't going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. I remember in the Philippines, we was down in Mindanao, and this older brother, he probably, I don't know how old he was, I'd say around 70. He was in Brother Velasquez's church. We were all down there, and he said, Brother Parnell, I got to ask you a question. Will there be any sex in heaven? And I knew what he meant. But anyway, I said, well, Paul said we're in heaven now. There's a whole lot of sex going on. He looked at me and he said, I know, but I mean, like, and what he was saying was, I'm an old man and I'm not exactly where I can do the things I used to do. And I said, Abraham and Sarah renewed their body. And when we come to that time that we break the veils, your body will be renewed. Of course, you'll be able to do those things and have a relationship with your wife. He danced all over that room. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We limit and do things to ourselves to punish ourselves. Some say there'll be no more leadership in humanity. I say Moses and Elijah were still prophets on Mount Transfiguration. Samuel was still a prophet when he came back and talked to Saul. Some say a woman can't be an apostle, a prophet, evangelist, a teacher, or a pastor. Who said that? Who said that? Show me that in the Bible. If this is your absolute, show it to me. Show me where Paul said that. You show me where William Branham said that. Nowhere did he say a woman couldn't be that. They did say in the church age time, in the church dispensation, a woman needs to stay silent in the church. But outside the church, she can hold all those gifts and be doing them all around in her life everywhere. And now that we're past the church and there isn't any church to go to, and we are the temple of God, ladies, sisters, women, brethren can hold those offices and those gifts among the body continually, and everyone use them, and it become a functioning body. Mm-hmm. Stop limiting yourselves. Mm-hmm. Stop putting a lid on the can. Open it up and let everything out and enjoy it. Some say there'll be education and functions change, but everything you gain through experience is a part of your eternal character. Some say there'll be no opposites. There won't be any devil over there. We're in heavenly places now. I read where the devil got kicked out of heaven one time, and I read where the devil went back into heaven. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right into heaven, right before the throne of God, and talked with Job. The devil went there. What is the devil? Processes, and there will always be processes in heaven. We are in heaven now. If we don't have seasonal processes, there will be some other processes. There will be trumpets. There will be seals. There will be on and on and on, plagues, and there will be thunders. There will be all kinds of processes that we continually go through throughout eternity. We're not doing away with the devil, but I say unto you, just recast what the devil is. Just recast what it is and get in your mind that it's not a person or an entity. It's processes that we set ourselves up so we can go through it and learn and become more and be more knowledgeable and more informative and get a better benefit out of the encounter than we had before. That's what it's about. Some say there'll be no contrast in eternity because the devil, the processes of change, will be annihilated. I say to you, how will we grow? Oh, we won't grow no more, Brother Parnell. Well, I don't want to live there.
No.
I don't want to. My heart wants to grow. My mind wants to expand continually. You say, how will we grow? I would ask that question. And how will we grow or expand in our universal body? The entire universe expands and contracts through negative and positive currents and frequencies. We need continual processes and seasons to continue on in our growth. Would a recast of roles be a more sensible thought? And say, processes will always be, but when we're finished with one or two or three or a simultaneous hundreds, we'll move into hundreds more and continue on. And there will always be a contrast, and there will always be the devil, that dragon, that monster of the sea will always be there because that is what keeps us growing, all of those processes. Enjoin in one. We are enjoined into one. I'll stay in this gap. I want to be here, as there are many more things that we need to rethink, use reflexation, renew our minds, and expand. Jesus said to Judas, friend, always look at everything as a friend, as a loved one, as a process, as something that you set up to take yourself through and enjoin and be one in the encounter and have a better benefit and understanding in the knowledge and information that you receive. Love, bless. Is there anything anybody has?
Everything we put into motion, back when it was just theophany, when it was thought and word, everything that put into motion, it'll never stop. It just changes. It's real simple. Look at your whole life. There are things you do at home that you only do at home, but there are many, many, many things that you do at home that you do other places. Life is that way. There'll be certain things that once this particular life is over, that process in itself is finished. But there'll be so many more processes that just flow on from the next stage to the next stage to the next life to whatever. It's gonna keep flowing. You don't stop all of humanity at the end of this life. There's only certain aspects that we say, hey, we learned what we needed to learn, but all that did was open up the door to learn a whole lot more.
That's right.
It's not an ending, it's a perpetuation.
Yes.
Keep that in mind.
Yes.
Look at the bigger picture.
The same way with the seasons right now. We're going through a perpetual seasons. We're in spring. We're going to break out into summer. We're going to go back into autumn. We're going to drop into winter. It's a constant, perpetual changing all the time. That's what it's about.
To give us new experience. Yeah.
Perennials and annuals. Constant. Some flowers, they just go on and on and on. The next year they come back. The next year they come back. And the next year they're perpetual. And then there's some flowers that are just annuals. They just grow and they're gone. And if you don't get more seeds, you're not going to have that flower next year. So that's what it is. We need to understand, enjoin in one with the earth, and let life and earth become one in you and move. Put motion to it. Light and thought are not as fast as the speed of motion. Motion puts everything in order.
Light and thought will not give you experience. It
That's right.
takes movement
That's right.
to get experience.
Before I could think to turn the light on, movement already took over.
Nature had already moved on me.
Love bless. If you need healing, trust the Spirit in you and trust the gifts in the body. Get your healing, get your whatever you need in
Whatever you
life.
need. Yep.
It's all in us. Love bless.